Welcome to the Black Women's World Podcast. Welcome to Black Women's World, where Black women vibe and thrive together. And if you ain't a Black woman, you'll get to know at least one. Because this Black Women's World, my Black woman's world, is whatever I say it is, simply because I am. So welcome, SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers. We're here for you. Much love and peace. I'm just grateful to be here this morning, like I said, in the capacity of pastor and chaplain of Peace Place and spiritual director for people. I do that too as a service. And Peace Place for me is just a place where we edify, encourage, and it's so important that we encourage and even embrace one another with the love of God, especially this day and time. So much going on in the world, and we get the opportunity. We talked last time about Peace Patrol, and I heard from some of you how you were able to be a Peace Patrol for someone, and hopefully after we get through with the recording aspect, we can talk about in Peace Place maybe your experiences in that. And also Peace Place community, I just appreciate the fact that, you know, it's very convenient being virtual when you got people from different states, we don't have anybody from a different country currently, but there's some people I talk to from other countries and another platform that I do some things for. But God is good, and being virtual and interfaith and purpose-filled and inclusive, it's just doing so much for my heart. And then when we were talking about the Peace Patrol, and then we'll get into a little later the Love Posse. But I wanted to share some things with you this morning. Our basis, we've been talking from Micah, the book of Micah in our Christian Bible, Micah 6:8, to do justly. Micah asked God, what is required of me? What do you require of me? And but the only thing that God requires is for us to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. And also from a Peace Patrol aspect, we've been talking about Mark 12:29, when Jesus was asked by the scribes who were trying to trip him up. What's the best commandment, Jesus? Which one you got? And Jesus said to love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, that's it. There's no greater than these. But the first of all was to love God with your whole mind and soul and strength. And to love your neighbor as yourself. So how do we love God? How do we show that we love God with all our soul, our mind, and our strength? One way we do it is to love our neighbor as ourselves. That's the way we express our love for God. Because God is spirit. God is not what we see. God is in us. And we use our mind to love God and to talk about God. And those of us who believe in the Christian faith, I speak from that because that's what I believe in. And that's also my experience. We talk about letting Jesus in our heart when nobody splits us open and a full-size human being walks in. So even the acceptance of accepting Jesus as our Savior happens in our mind. And so a lot of things that we're dealing with, you know, with our mind, our emotions, and that happens with dealing with people. Even when God answers our prayer, God uses people to answer our prayer. I don't care what your prayer is. If you're asking for God to help you with something, it shows up in human form, even if it was done on a computer. Some kind of way a human did it. Nowadays we're dealing with AI. Well, people programmed AI. A lot of what AI consists of is what we have fed it through our social media platforms. So even with that, it takes a person. It takes a human being that God, you know, moves. People will say, well, God healed me. I have several testimonies of healing. But I'm going to tell you, they range from what some will deem miraculous to it taking time. You know what a miracle it takes for someone to be sick and for God to allow someone who's from another part of the world, whether it be one of the 54 countries in Africa or somewhere in India where they go, or even here in America where that person gets the money or has the wherewithal to go to medical school, to take the necessary classes, to be at the right place and the right time to learn. And then they graduate, and then they go to med school and all this kind of stuff. And then a pharmaceutical company, the good ones, who produce a medication that you have insurance, or if you don't have insurance, that you have the money to buy the medication, to digest it, and for that medication, for that specialty service, for all those things to work together for your body and for your good, for you to be healed. That's even a miracle. You know, and miracles come in all different sizes, shapes, and forms. And so when I was thinking about, you know, the Peace Patrol and the Love Posse and what we do, I thought about so many times where people feel rejected. And here in America, there's a deliberate effort to take away a lot of DEI programs, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, to make sure that the playing field is leveled when we deal with people from different ethnicities and backgrounds, because we haven't had the chances, especially as Black women. We haven't had the opportunities. And then sometimes when we have, there's sabotage. Every time we do get in a room, the rules change. And y'all know how that can be. And so I was thinking about how to include people. A lot of times we don't have the resources, nor do we have the influence in some major places in government to make a difference, but we have the power in our everyday lives to make a difference. And I thought about, you know, sometimes we go back, at least me, I have to go way back to tell some stories, because some stories are so new, and because of me having to sign NDAs with people and some of the delicate matters I deal with, sometimes you can't tell a story. You got to wait for a while, because sometimes those people are sitting, waiting to see if you're going to divulge their information. So sometimes you got to go way back to tell a story. And sometimes I can figure out how to tell one to keep anonymity or whatever. But because of the fact some of these people, especially on social media, they follow you, and they can kind of see if you're talking about them, and they'll kind of lose some faith in you or whatever. So sometimes I have to go way back. I try not to tell current stories too much that will give the person's situation away. But when I go way back, I feel so much freer. So I was thinking, when we talk about to love your neighbor as yourself, and I thought about a new, not necessarily a new, but another way to look at that has happened in my life is something as simple as somebody saying, you can sit with us. I don't know if y'all were, I don't know what category you fell in when you were in the awkward age of junior high school, or in some cases elementary school, where you didn't quite fit in. I changed schools because of being a military brat, as they say. I wasn't a brat, but that was just the nickname they called us. I changed schools 13 different times. It wasn't 13 different schools, because sometimes we revisited the same base. But I changed schools 13 different times. And so that was 13 different times I had to show up as the new kid on the block. Can you imagine? Or as my Nigerian friend saying, can you imagine? Can you imagine having to be the new kid and you didn't change at the beginning of the school year? Sometimes it was in the middle or the end, and you got to be the new kid on the block. So you either learn how to acclimate really quickly, or you just going on, and sometimes I would just disappear into the walls. It was like, you know, they already got their pick, they already got their, you know, so I really learned how books were my friends, music were my friends, and I didn't stay lonely. I did manage to always get into a little group of some sort. So I didn't feel rejected or whatever. But those first few weeks, oh my God. And then I went to a all-white Christian school. It was only me and a little boy named Norman Brown. We were the only two black kids at this school. And oh my God, it was evangelical. And so I experienced a lot of racism and a lot of that, but this ain't that. But when you go into those new schools and lunchtime, and people are already grouped off, you know, you got your jocks, you got your pretty girls, you got your what people will call nerds, bookworms, you got your goth, the ones that are kind of weirded out. You got your back then the druggies. When I went to high school, kids were smoking. They had a smoking terrace for kids at high school. I don't know about y'all, but kids would smoke in high school, and so many different things. So you had your church kids, you had country kids, and if it was a military school, you had the children that belonged in the area, that were native to the area. Then you had the military kids, and you had categories within categories. And so just walking into the lunchroom with a lunch tray was hell to pay. It was like I would try to look for an empty table first, because I was like, I ain't gonna try to sit nowhere. So first you try to look for an empty table, and usually an empty table is way off, or either you got one kid there, the most awkward. And I think those times was when I really learned to just accept people. I just have a gift of acceptance, because it's probably what I needed, and you become what you needed. And so it may be the awkward kids sitting by themselves that literally had tape on the glasses. You don't see literal tape on the glasses no more, but back then you would see tape on the glasses. And so just having those awkward times. And can you sit with people? As a person who wants to be a peace patrol or be a part of a love posse, somebody saying, you can sit with me, makes all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference in the world. So when we can't impact DEI from a global perspective, or a perspective in our own states or countries, we can affect it as individuals. Do we have the diversity, equity, and inclusion? We can do that within ourselves. And I thought specifically about, I went all the way back to school when I thought about the story I want to share with y'all. This was about probably maybe 12, 13 years ago. Jada was she was attending an ESL school, and ESL stands for English as a Second Language School. We were here in America. We had just left Okinawa, but we were here in America, in North Carolina, in the Raleigh-Knightdale area. And she was attending an elementary school where most of the students, English was their second language. And back then it was okay to say Hispanic, and I don't want to be offensive, but so many times with labeling, and I don't know who keeps putting on the labels, and then people get offended and we change the labels, and sometimes it's just hard to have a conversation because you don't want to get the label wrong. So back then it was Hispanic, but now it's Latinx, because it's a combination of combining Latina for female and Latino for male, and it's just Latinx. But then I was speaking to a group the other day, and they said they don't even need all of that. So just trying to be politically correct as I tell the story. So Jada was attending this elementary school where English was a second language. So a lot of the children had come from other countries, mainly Latin countries, that they were just learning English. And so a lot of them even had to translate for their parents. And so Jada's little friends, and this is the same school where I told y'all the story about I had to put money on her books because she kept buying ice cream and stuff where she wasn't supposed to for other people. And we blessed two little boys with shoes. And so I had started this compassion box, and one of my coworkers is on listening. She's in Peace Place now. She was part of the donation crew, because these kids were not just the Latinx kids, but a lot of the kids were dealing with poverty. And so I would get my coworkers, I'm looking at you right now, Peaches, to help, and other people to help get this compassion box together. And I would do white t-shirts of all sizes, sanitary napkins, because not only did some of the little girls start their menstrual cycles at school, they didn't even have sanitary napkins at home. We may could get a pair of shoes here or there, toilet paper, because sometimes even the school, Wake County Public School, I don't know what you're doing now, but back then, sometimes the school didn't keep toilet paper in the bathroom because of vandalism, so the kids had to get toilet paper from the teachers. The teachers would keep, toilet paper. It was just so many things going on. So we had this compassion box with clothes, and we didn't put food in it, but mainly little clothes and toiletries, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrushes, stuff like that. And so some of the moms knew that I was kind of doing this compassion box, and the children would have to translate for their mothers. And so they would be grateful, because sometimes kids would take things, and if I knew take enough that they could take things home that were necessary, you know, because they didn't have it at home. And so the mothers, you know, would smile, and I would use my best Spanish because I had taken Spanish in high school, and back where I grew up in Havelock at my dad's church, Ambassadors for Christ was multiracial, multicultural. It was in a military town, so we had people there from all different countries, but a lot of them were from different with Ecuador, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, different ones. And so when I took Spanish, I took it for 3 years in high school, and in taking it, there was and I gotta name names for this because it's out of gratitude. Josie and Raymond Rodriguez and Yvette and Jose Perez, they would not let me speak to them in English. So whenever I would see them at church, they would, hola, ¿cómo está? Muy bien, gracias, y tú? I would have to speak to them in Spanish. They wanted me to sing in Spanish, and they even taught some songs in Spanish, and I would have to sing them. And the thing of it was, the dialects, they were from, like I said, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Mexico, different Ecuador, different countries, and those countries have their own dialects, and I was learning textbook Spanish. So there was some conflict in how they would teach me to say it, and I'd go back to school and the teacher would say that was wrong, or I'd tell them something and they didn't know what it was, and it was, but we got through it. But we would sing, you know, and they taught us Joy Like a River in Spanish. Do sue mi alma, en mi ser. Yo tengo ríos de agua viva, ríos de agua viva, ríos de agua viva en mi alma, en mi ser. See, I still remember. But anyway, so I would speak to these moms, try to speak through their children and translate and whatever, but they were usually always happy to see me. Well, one day there was this contest at school, and it was music. They could sing or dance. It was just a talent show. And their daughters would come to my house, our house, all the time. They would spend the night, spend the day, and because they didn't have transportation, me or Owen would always take them home, you know, bring them here, take them home or whatever. And Jada loved those little girls, and some of them still follow me on Instagram. And but at the time, they had Jada had choreographed this dance number for her little group, and it was about 6 or 7 little girls on it, and 2 of them were the Latina little girls. And so after it was over, they won. Jada's little group won the little contest, and after the event was over, they came almost dragging their mom towards me, and they were so excited because they had won, and I figured she was coming to say something about, you know, them winning. And I mean, it was almost like they had the lady, you know, on her tiptoes. You know, they were just pulling her, and she was much shorter than they were, and she and I could see eye to eye. You know, we had that in common. And so, y'all, when they came up to me, it was not, as they began to come, I saw some of the other moms coming towards me, and I wasn't, you know, negatively suspect of anything, but I was like, you know, maybe they just coming to say congratulations for whatever. But they kind of surrounded me, and in the translation, and she was trying to speak, you know, Spanish because she knew I understood a little and whatever. In this whole confusing conversation that ended up being so beautiful, they were inviting me to come to a quinceañera and a birthday party. And I was like, oh my God. And I was making sure, you know, because like I said, it was getting lost in translation. I don't know if the girls were making up something, because you know how kids can make up whether or not they want to, you know, my mom said I can spend the night, and the mom ain't never said nothing. They do that in all languages. So, and I was like, you know, is your mom, you trying to come to my house or what? And so I finally figured it out. It was this birthday party in quinceañera, and they were wanting me to come, and they told me Jada could come, and they were going to ask me if I could bring Owen. And you know, Owen ain't about going a whole lot of places. He just don't groove with a whole lot of things. And so I looked at my calendar, and I said yes, because they said, can you come? And they wanted an answer right then. I said, yes, I can come. Looked at my calendar, I said yes, and I said, where is it going to be? And here's another issue with translation. And they said it's going to be at mi casa, CC, mi casa, mi casa. And I know that's my house, my house. And I'm like, okay, but I knew where they lived. And where they lived was in a trailer park that had about maybe 12, 15 trailers in it. There were probably another 20 that had been condemned. There were about 12 or 15 trailers that should have been condemned. And like I said, their girls would spend the night with us often. They would use the compassion box whenever we would do our beyond holiday gift giving. Make sure, we did. And I would always give other people an opportunity to help this community of people that I had grown to know and love. And they kept, and I'm saying, can't be there. They can't have a party there. I'm thinking my American mindset, my probably even some of my prejudices, like, you can't have a quinceañera. I know how they do quinceañeras. That's a big deal. You gonna have a birthday party? And I had to and I figured it out. Okay, yeah, they're gonna have it there. So when we got home, I told Owen about it. He was like, man, I was like, come on, man, come on, live on the edge with me. Either way, me and Jada were gonna go. So he was like, all right, I'll go. And so the day of, and we went, and we like I said, we knew where they lived, and they had the light streaming, streamers and lights and grills, and I'm almost crying just thinking about the work and the love they put into this event for these girls. And it was the music, and I'm gonna tell you, y'all know Latinx people, Hispanic, whatever you prefer to be called. Y'all know how to party, and y'all can party, in the words of Lionel Richie, all night long. Y'all can go. And the music and the food, and we were just pulling in, and I would just see how they had just done their best to transform what should not have been a livable space in this country. And those girls in their dresses. And when we got ready to get out of the car, they came rushing to the car, and, and I had, little birthday gifts, and they weren't even paying attention to the gifts. They were just so glad, because I think they thought we weren't going to come. And we got out of the car, and their dad, who I never heard him even attempt to speak English, and that wasn't a problem for us. But he went to Owen and he said, you can sit with me. And y'all, they laid out the red carpet for us. Other than a literal red carpet, they catered to us. The food was just overflowing. Tamales and, a lot of things we assume that we think his Mexican food is what everybody eats. No, it ain't a Taco Bell thing. I mean, they had pupusas. They had all kind of stuff. And they asked us to dance, take us by the hand to dance. And I thought about, they were so happy. Her mother cried because they didn't think we would show up, because they didn't think they were enough for us. And I think about how much sometimes we think we're not enough for other people. And just what it takes for somebody to say, you can sit with me. It's like the song it says, come on in to my Father's house. There's lots of room, and no one will be turned out. No matter where you are, no matter where you've been, we've saved the place at the table. There's room for everyone. Come on in. You can sit with me. What it meant to me in elementary school and high school, when I was a new kid on the block 13 times. What it means when you're the new kid on a new adult on the job, and your coworker says, you want to go to lunch with us? That's all it takes. To love mercy, to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly, to love your neighbor as yourself, to be a peace patrol and have a love posse. Those people out there at that trailer park, to the McNeil families, were a love posse. Couldn't understand what half of them were saying, because they're speaking, in a rhythm, some, just like Mandarin and some Asian languages are tonal. Hispanic or Latinx languages, they speak in a rhythm, and they get to going real fast, and I'm catching pieces. But I understood laughter, I understood dance, I understood good food, and I knew what love felt like. That day, they were the diversity equity, and inclusion posse for us. And I will never forget, even though their girls used to come to our home, and spend the night, as kids do, they included us. They would, they even had Owen, they were offering alcohol. And I was like, now that stuff can be a little strong. You get a little bit of, they had some good tequila. He had me a little tequila. It was just a wonderful experience. And all I'm saying is, this is how we take the scripture off the pages and put it in our hearts, whether it be the Josie and Raymond Rodriguez and the Yvette and Jose Perez, who were a part of a multiracial, multicultural, interdenominational, interfaith ministry back then, Ambassadors for Christ Fellowship Center. I have to say it because it's the bedrock of where I live from now, to be inclusive, to say, everybody come on in. Come on in, everybody. Let's love on each other. And that's what I aim to do. I know I have said a whole lot, and I just hope that some kind of way you take what I'm saying and figure out ways to include people. And we as Black women, for the most part, when I'm talking to the SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers in a podcast space, we kind of do that naturally. It kind of takes patriarchy, a lot of capitalism, to force us to kind of lose our nurture, our innate ability to nurture and to care. Because we try to climb that ladder. We try to live the American dream that I think is up for revision. And sometimes we lose that. But I want to tell you to embrace it. Settle back into. And it doesn't mean allow anybody to walk all over you. It doesn't mean allow people to treat you any kind of way, because you can stand strong and firm in being the godly woman that you are, because God is not only with us, in us, God is as us. We get to take the posture as a God woman or as a God man and be God to somebody who may not know your version of religion or may not accept necessarily what you believe. Can you be the only God people see and say, you can sit with me? And I say yes. And on that note, I'm closing this out in the reference of podcast form, and we in the Peace Place community, we're going to have hopefully a great discussion about it. And I'm TracyMac. I'm grateful, and I love y'all for real. Much love and peace.
Peace Place for me, a virtual connection where the contagious love of Jesus Christ abides and thrives. We are an exclusive community purposed to enhance and expand spiritual and holistic growth to advance the kingdom of God. We get to enjoy life more abundantly in peace. You are welcome to join Pastor and Chaplain TracyMac in this virtual, interfaith, inclusive, and purpose-filled community. For access to join our virtual meetings, email us at peace@blackwomensworld.com. That is peace@blackwomensworld.com. Or you can reach us at our website, www.peaceplaceforme.com. We look forward to seeing you.
You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, brought to you in part by TracyMac, Solutions for Life Institute, coaching and training services. No doubt you have enjoyed being in our world, and it doesn't have to stop here. Head on over to blackwomensworld.com. This is my personal invitation to you to stay connected with me on social media and more. I'd love to see you there, and I'm so grateful you came to be with me here. Invite someone else to join you in our queendom next time so they can feel the vibe of our tribe of SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers too. Remember to be kind, be authentic, be generous, be excellent, be grateful, and while you're at it, go ahead and be extraordinary, because that's just what SistaNistas do, on purpose, through mission, with passion and compassion. It's a Black woman's world, baby, and you, my SistaNista, are proof. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and your host, TracyMac. Wherever you are in the world, may you love and be loved by somebody. Peace.